Ralph Breaks the Internet is the sequel to the 2012 Disney animated movie Wreck-It Ralph. This animated kids movie is directed by Phil Johnston and Rich Moore and stars John C. Reilly, Sarah Silverman, and Gal Gadot.
Hey, kid! Wake up!
Ralph, what is wrong with you?
Start churning butter and put on your church shoes, little sister, because we're about to blast off!
Ralph, what is it you're trying to say?
We're going to the internet.
What?
So the first movie came out in 2012, and as we found out now in the second movie, weirdly enough, the first movie apparently does take place in 2012. So it's 2018 in the realm of the films universe. And Ralph and Vanellope are the best of friends. They spend every night together when they're not on the job, hanging out, talking, making jokes, and they really are the best of friends. But Vanellope is having not the same existential crisis that Ralph did in the first movie, but an existential crisis of her own, of getting really bored with the mundanity of life. She wants to broaden her horizons. And as she experiences this crisis in the first 20 minutes of the movie, Ralph accidentally breaks Sugar Rush. Basically, she said, like, oh, one of the lines in the movie is, oh, there's only 3 tracks and I know them back to front. So Ralph is like, I'm gonna make a new track. And he makes a new track, and because of this, he accidentally broke the physical game. He made the person playing Sugar Rush accidentally break the game in the real world, which was just weird. And the central plot that gets them into the internet is when the steering wheel breaks, the owner of the arcade it looks for the part, and apparently they only look on eBay for the part, and apparently there's only one wheel to replace, one Sugar Rush wheel in the entire world that can replace this part, and it's a $200 minimum auction on eBay, and he's like, nope, not worth it, I'm just gonna unplug the game. So they unplug the game, everybody's homeless, and for the first time ever, because apparently in 2018, that's when this was the year to invest in a Wi-Fi router, because the owner had just recently gotten access to the internet, and when it's plugged in at Game Central Station, they can go to the internet. But they're not supposed to, because it's dangerous and new. But Ralph and Vanellope are like, nah, we can get to this eBay app and get the part. And they do, and that's the story. Yeah, that's the plot. It's a little more casual, but it's a dumb excuse to go into the internet.
Hi. Whoa, ladies, I'm a princess too.
What kind of a princess are you?
Do you have magic hair?
No.
Magic hands?
No.
Do animals talk to you?
No.
Were you poisoned?
No.
Cursed?
No.
Kidnapped or enslaved?
No. Are you guys okay? Should I call the police?
Do people assume all your problems got solved because a big, strong man showed up?
Yes. What is up with that?
She is a princess.
I actually saw this movie with our junior consultant, Mike Adams, and we decided to record our initial thoughts in an Initial Thoughts podcast. Link will be down in the description below if you want to listen to 45 minutes of junior consultant Mike Adams and I talking about a kid's film. We go a little bit more in depth into like spoiler-esque plot points, so I'm going to do my best to not bring up too many of those here, though a lot of my points do come from the third act, so I'll try and give a warning. As always with Disney movies, the animation is incredibly nice to look at. It's not... I may draw some comparisons to the Emoji Movie, guys, because, well, this is the Emoji Movie done well in some respects. The Emoji Movie is ugly to look at. It's just not good animation. But this is very pretty, and one of the things that I definitely thought was I really liked the way they created the visualization of the internet. It's like a big city, and each website is a building. Like Instagram is an art museum, eBay is an auction house, and so on and so forth. And it's just really nice to look at. And the other main huge positive I have is that the voice acting is phenomenal. John C. Reilly, I love him in this role. Again, Sarah Silverman, I really can't complain. And Gal Gadot has a really funny character in this. In their adventures into the internet, Ralph and Vanellope find themselves in this ultra-violent, intense racing game called Slaughter Race, which Mike and I said was kind of this weird combination of Grand Theft Auto and like Doom for some reason. And Gal Gadot is like the main antagonist in that game, but similar to the rules of the arcade world from the first game, when there isn't a player around, Gal Gadot and her little gang of street racers are like the nicest people on the earth, and they're written really well, and I just love Gal Gadot quite a bit. She's and she's very funny in this. And there's a lot of really good humor. I do have to say, there's a lot of very funny moments. I talked more about them in that podcast, so I won't spoil too many, but there is enough good here to warrant watching. But I'm gonna dive into the bad a little bit. And I will give a somewhat spoiler warning here. I'm gonna do my best not to reveal major plot points, but most of my problems with the movie come from its third act into its climax. So if you're really concerned about spoilers, skip to this point in the video to see just our conclusion. 3, 2, 1. The climax is where this movie really falls apart. The first 2/3, while there are some cringy moments, are for the most part the more fun part of the movie. When the third act comes, and as Mike called it, the central conflict of Vanellope doesn't want to go back to Sugar Rush. She wants to live the rest of her life in Slaughter Race because it's more what she wants in the world. Ralph gets really jealous and sad and clingy and doesn't want her to leave. So there's a whole plot with a virus. I did talk about it in the podcast, so again, I'll do my best not to go too in-depth again here. But they have a fight, and there's a big monster they have to beat. And my biggest problem with this movie is where the first movie had this very clever way to visualize its core message of accepting yourself in the climax. This movie has a climax in which they essentially look the viewer in the eye and say, this is the message of the movie. And it is a literal embodiment of the principle of show, don't tell. They're telling you the message, and they're essentially not respecting their viewer by saying, here's the message. In case you didn't get it, this is the message of the movie. Morals! And there are some smaller messages that they do a little bit better, and they don't talk about as much, but definitely the core message of the movie in the climax is, as Mike put it, extremely on the nose. He kept turning to me in the movie and going, he was saying, on the nose, little on the nose. And two more points before we conclude. The first is both bad and good, and that is the scene where Vanellope goes to the Oh My Disney app, which is a app that Disney has just for young kids who are fans of Disney to take quizzes and all that. And that is both the most funny and most surreal bit of nonsense I've ever seen in a Disney movie. Because first of all, Disney exists in the universe of Wreck-It Ralph, which, I don't know about you guys, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. My biggest comment on the Oh My Disney scene is that it's just... What I said in the podcast, and I like this analogy, is that scene, it is as if Disney broke the fourth wall, rebuilt the fourth wall, broke it again, and then pissed on the fourth wall. Because they're like, haha, we're Disney. We acknowledge that we do cliches and that they're weird sometimes and that we have far too many in-jokes to put into one movie. But they're also doing it. But they're like, Disney has gained sentience, guys. Like the corporate now, the Disney, the company, is acknowledging itself, which might be terrifying. You never know. And my only other point, I originally jokingly said that I'd give the movie a 0 out of 5 if this didn't happen. But I'm not going to give it a 0 out of 5 because I'm not that much of a jerk. But in the first movie, Owl City wrote the song When Can I See You Again for the soundtrack. And it is an iconic bop. Don't at me on this. It is a great song. And they didn't invite Owl City back to do a new song. I even just was like, if they play When Can I See You Again, I'll be fine with it. But nope, no Owl City anywhere. We have Imagine Dragons writing a song called Zero. Because that's a good substitution.
Shouldn't it be Ralph Wrecks the Internet?
Yeah, since he is Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, but break the internet, it's like a thing.
Right, it's just Wreck the Internet kind of sounds better, doesn't it?
You're not wrong.
Ralph Breaks the Internet is a good kids movie. It's wonderful heart, good sense of humor at times, great voice acting, and beautiful animation make for at least one enjoyable viewing. A 4 out of 5.